Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the After School Dawah podcast. I think it's been a while since our last episode. Has it?
Yeah.
It's been a while. But yeah, Tahmid, Saad, how are you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah. How are you doing?
That doesn't sound very nice, man. The way Saad said alhamdulillah, bro, it was like, bro, I don't want to be here right now, man.
So just said like, I'm doing great.
So just said like, Mo doesn't even pay us for this, man.
Sounds like get to it, man. Go for your shot.
But yeah, anyways, as you guys know, today's episode, I guess it's no surprise to anyone watching, is of course going to be about what's going on right now in Palestine. But rather more specifically, what is it that we can do about what's going on in Palestine? And that's going to be the main premise of today's episode. So inshallah, by the end of today's episode, every single person, doesn't matter who you are, listening to this episode, you will know 100%, 110%, yeah guys? 110%, yeah? They will know exactly what they can do and what they can't do, right? And that's what we're here for. We're not going to tell you to do something like, oh, fly over there and, go and take the war to them, yeah? Nothing like that. We're not going to tell you to do the impossible, innit? We're going to tell you practical, realistic things you can do to support our Muslim brothers and sisters in Palestine. But I guess before that, if Tahmid, you could probably tell us, why is it, I guess we don't really need to go too much into the conflict behind it. Everyone knows what the problem is. Everyone knows that, the Zionists in Israel, I say Israel like that, innit? I say it like Bani Israel, like I'm reading one of the books in it. But they are occupying Gaza, Palestine, etc. And so much, I guess, what can you call it? Atrocities towards Palestinian protesters.
More than just atrocities, man. Literal.
Not even protesters. Everyone there.
Yeah, journalists as well.
The reports say that they even, the children that they capture, right? They even torture them. They even beat them up, right? There's no what you call it, like, okay, you know what? The kids will let them off. It's none of that, right? I remember the Israeli general, whatever, right? Of the forces, they were complaining that, oh, these Palestinian protesters, they're throwing kites at us. Wait, what? Kites. They're throwing kites. So what are you going to do instead? So, we had no other choice but to bomb them instead. Like, does that even make sense,
No.
But yeah, in any case, go on.
He was like, I was walking on the street and this kid threw a rock at me. So I went home and got in my fighter jet, went over his entire neighborhood and bombed his whole neighborhood.
Bro, that's legit what it is, man. That's legit what it is. And it's so sad. I mean, like, I remember talking to a friend of mine, innit, take everything else out of it, right? Let's pretend you don't know a thing about what's going on in Palestine or Israel. You don't know anything, right? Just like, should there not be basic laws, like unwritten laws to say that, listen, let's not go that far. Listen, if someone brings a knife to a fight, let's not go and bring our bazooka to the fight. Like, is that not common sense? Right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's not the case over here. And I guess the first thing we should start is, Tahmid, why is it important for us as Muslims, first and foremost, why is it important for us to even care about this topic? And why is it important for us to even act on it in the first place?
Bismillah. So there's
Bismillah.
numerous reasons why we should
but before you start in it,
we should be.
and I say this because maybe let me try and be the devil. Sorry.
I lagged out.
Oh, did you lag out?
yeah, I'm lagged out.
Yeah. No worries. I was gonna say in it. Oh yeah, I was saying in it. Because some people in it, let's be the devil's advocate in it. When I scroll through Instagram, yeah, and I see, something happen in Palestine, bro, yeah, obviously it's gonna hurt, bro.
Yeah.
But then I think to myself, or then someone can think to themselves, but I'm over here. Like, I am thousands and thousands of miles away, right? And I have absolutely no political power. It's not like I can just, like, call up, the Prime Minister or something. It's not like I can do, or like I can't do anything, so what's the point? And I'm sure, like, as much as no one would like to admit it, I'm sure some of us have thought like that. Some of us have felt very helpless in the situation, because we're talking about, I don't want to call it a war, because it's not a war, it's a genocide that has been going on for years and years and years, right? Something that big. What can I as one person do? And when I feel like I can't do anything, then what's the point of me even trying? You get what I mean? What's the point of me ruining my day by by looking at these type of things? Because then guess what? Not only is it that I can't do anything to help them, I'm just ruining my own day now as well. So I'm just making it worse for myself as well. Right? Na'udhu billah, but this is what some people can think. And I guess,
feel guilty, I want to avoid
yeah. And I guess without any hope, is it really that bad to think like that? It is quite realistic to think like that. Not gonna lie. So yeah, I guess with that said, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, I already asked you the question in there, so
Okay,
Bismillah. innit?
Bismillah, yeah. So there's numerous reasons, Islamic and just general humanitarian reasons why you should be caring. But like, for example, the point you just mentioned, where you're like, you can't make any large scale changes. So what can you do? Like, why should you make an effort? Because you can't really make any big changes. But then again, even outside of in that kind of mindset, you'll never get anything done. Because if everything is done in a bigger picture, anything you do, even Jordan Peterson, he recommends, that psychologist, and it's like he says you can't change the world if your own house isn't in order, if your room's a mess. It's kind of a meme that goes around where people, because he says it a lot. If your room is messy, how do you expect to change the world? You can't, innit? You gotta start small and then carry on and escalate and take things to a large scale. In that regard, you can do a lot, and hopefully, through perseverance and through dua, your efforts would reach a larger place. For example, your local MP can make a change. You can't, but you could contact your local MP, and then your local MP could go into Parliament or go into whatever debates, whatever
Wait, hold up, damn it! Hold up. Did you just like give us like a practical solution, bro? Whoa,
that's just
calm down, calm down.
Get your pen and paper out, bro. I'm gonna give you.
My guy.
We're giving you life hacks right here, man.
Not just that. You might think, oh, that's effort. Why am I gonna go contact MP, write email? Nah, people have made it easy for you. There's literal links where you just type your name in and it makes an automated email for you and sends it to your local MP. How easy is that? I've done like 5.
You know the way I see it, man. And firstly, Tamid, I commend you for that as well. The fact you did 5, you sent 5.
Well, I don't know if it's actually 5. I just said 5.
Must have
but it was around that number.
But I commend you anyways. But in terms of what you said about like, is it worth putting in the effort in it? The way I think about it, yeah, if we look at the other side, bro, right? Because this isn't a fight against like, against Jews. A lot of people, they say that, innit?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
a lot of Jews are against what's going on.
Yeah, a lot.
This is against Zionists, bro. Zionists who have, and I'm not saying this because I'm like, I just want to like start a war or something like that. Yeah. I'm not a national person, innit? This is just plain and simple. Yeah. There's been a group of people who committed crimes against humanity, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean, crimes against humanity? It just means like, bro, you just did something that's inhumane, right? And us as Muslims, first and foremost, we can't stand for it because that's just injustice, man. Yeah. So now if you think about it, yeah, when I think about it, imagine their side, bro. Their side, bro, they're working, they're working day and night fighting this, bro. Right, from their side. They have a whole, like, organized effort, right? Designers, they have a whole organized effort working night and day, on the clock, off the clock, whatever, yeah? Trying to go against this, right? Tahmid's talking about writing letters. Imagine how many letters they wrote, man. They probably write letters, five letters a day, bro. So when you think about that, right, what's happening on the Palestine side? Like, who's putting the effort in on the Palestine side of things, right? Compared to that, bro, no one's putting in any effort on the Palestine side of things. And that's why it's always worth it, man, when we do it. It's always worth it. Because guess what? The other side, they have more. They have more people. It's, for example, it's like, have you guys watched Suits? Is it called Suits?
Yeah,
the law one, right?
Yeah, Suits,
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a sick show. I remember there was one point of that show, right, where there was a very small law firm in it, and there was a big law firm, right? And basically, what the big law firm did, they used this tactic where they buried the small law firm in paperwork, because they had so many, like, people. They just had so many employees in it that they were just able to bury them in paperwork, right? They used their sheer numbers of people, like laborers, right, the accountants in the third floor or whatever, just to file paperwork after paperwork after paperwork, just so that small law firm will be so busy dealing with the paperwork that they can never even get to the case, right? You know what that situation is? That situation shows that there is one company that has so much more resources and is using that against it. That is exactly what's happening here. That is exactly what the Zionist group are doing, right? That is exactly that.
Military in the world, they receive like 3 to 4 billion a year from America.
Exactly, man.
Everything. They have too much power, but that doesn't mean we can.
Like, if I'm there, America's spoiled kid, man. At this point, you know.
Britain's just as guilty.
Exactly, man. There's the world spoiled kid, apparently. But yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. You know, sometimes I make a point in there and I just like forget where it started. You know, like you just forget where you started with it. You know, you just go on a rant. Sorry, what was I saying?
When I was giving the talk, we were talking about the letters and stuff.
Oh yeah, like their side always putting in so much effort in it. But yeah, the same way as that law firm in it, the way that big law firm buried the small law firm, I think that's exactly the same situation here. And that's why we as the Muslim, as the small law firm, we need to put in extra effort. We need to put in 10 times the effort they do, right? If we want to help, if we want to make a difference, we need to put in 10 times the effort they do, right? Now, I know a lot of people in it, they're listening to this, they're like, well, that's sick and all, yeah? You're telling us to put in effort. What do I put in effort into then, right? What am I going to put my effort into, right? So, because of that, we've split this podcast, right, or this episode into, 4 bits, right? We're going to talk about 4 different things, right? Firstly, we're going to talk about the political side of things, right? What do we need to know in terms of politics? Then we're going to talk about the economical side of things, how to put economic pressure onto it, the Israeli boycott, how to do it right, Then we're going to talk about the media, because guess what? Who controls the narrative? Right now, Israel controls the narrative with BBC News and etc. And that's what the whole world listens to. So we need to talk about that. And last and not least in it, that's the term in it. Wait, no, that's the saying in it. Last and
but not least.
But not last, but not least.
But not least, yeah.
But not least. That's the one. Last but not least, we gotta make dua. So how do we do that? How do we make dua in it? So I guess the best person to ask when it comes to the political side of things, in my opinion, is Saad, innit? Right? So Saad, I guess the first question or the first bit of this is, well, in my opinion, I think a lot of people, when it comes to supporting our Palestinian Muslim brothers and sisters, the first thing they need is confidence in themselves, confidence in their viewpoints. And I think the reason why they don't have confidence in their viewpoints and why they're not firm in it is because most of us, we're not actually educated in what's going on. We don't actually know what the political reality of Palestine and Israel is, right? So I guess, Saad, can you give us a bit of history or a bit of a rundown of what's going on? What is the situation that we're fighting against?
Bismillah. Yeah, so essentially down the situation is quite drastic and severe. And before we go into anything political, we should say obviously Dawah is the best solution. And also remember that the majority, a significant percentage of the population that is being killed there are children and women. And in a war, let's be honest, this isn't really a war. This is an absolute massacre. It's a
genocide, bro.
It's a genocide. It's ethnic cleansing, right? The casualties are women and children, and that is significant. And why is that significant? Is because then there is no repopulation. Yeah, there's no children growing up, and there's no women giving birth. Yeah, and this is something that needs to be kept in mind. Is imagine the situation as let's take the Israeli side, right? Imagine you're an Israeli general or whoever you are, right? And there's a 30-something% chance of killing children. I think around about that much. And maybe there's like a 20-something% chance of killing a woman, right? That's 50-something% of killing a woman or a child, right? Combine the percentage together. So killing women or children, 50% chance, right?
And how can you even call that collateral damage, bro?
How would you? I would never press that button that sends an attack, a missile, where there's a 30% chance of killing a child or a 20% chance of killing a woman. I would never press that button. Yeah. So first thing we need to.
You're mentally stable,
there's too many issues to get into, obviously, in this one episode, but we'll mention a brief few. Firstly, is this right? Firstly, is the situation on the ground, which is killing women and children, right? And not even attacking Hamas this, Hamas that. It's not even attacking Hamas this, Hamas that. It's attacking women and children. It's attacking innocent bystanders who just want to be there to pray. Bearing in mind, this all kicked off, at least this recent aggression, kicked off on one of the most holiest nights of Ramadan, in one of the most sacred places in Islam, right? So, forgetting that, after what happened, and actually even let's go before that, with the evicting of Palestinian homes, right? Palestinians from their homes with Israeli settlers. And by the way, these Israeli settlers are paid for by the US government. Legit, the famous video that majority of you probably seen, where the guy says, if I don't steal your house, someone else is going to steal it, right? That guy is actually found out to be from Vice News, was found out to be actually paid from he was paid from an American company, from an American organization, to go to Israel and take land. He's from New Jersey, if I remember correctly. So he's from America, yeah, and he come to Israel to go and take Palestinian land. So that's another issue there, of course, right? A further issue is how Zionists think of and treat the Arabs, right? They think of and treat the Arabs as inhuman, right? The subhuman, right? Monsters, right? Creatures that deserve to be exterminated. And this isn't me being hyperbolic or exaggerated. This is literally in their initial speech, right? If you look at Herzl, who was the founder of modern political Zionism, right? If you look at what he said about Arabs and what he considers to be, and what is taught in Israeli schools, and what is taught in Israeli society, is that Arabs are subhuman, right? They came here to take our land, right? This is rightfully our land religiously, right? And they deserve to be exterminated, and they're disgusting, and they need to get gotten rid of, right? And this is all in their speeches, all in their texts, right? And another important point I think we need to make here in terms of politics is that this is a political issue, not a religious issue, right? Like Muhammad mentioned, like Ahmed mentioned.
Saad, I think you need to say that again for the people at the back.
This is a political issue, not a religious issue, yeah? So as Muhammad,
amen, brother, amen.
As Muhammad and Ahmed mentioned, Orthodox Jews are standing out against the Israeli government and the Zionist policies, right? And what's important to mention here is that Israel serves a geopolitical importance for the West, right? with Joe Biden even saying many years ago, if there wasn't an Israel, the US would have to invent one, right? Because it serves an important player in the Middle East and in that region for their own interests, right? And that's why Israel's there, and that's why they won't speak out against whatever they do. What they call them alleged war crimes, they are war crimes. They've been monitored to be war crimes, right? By Amnesty International, by UN Human Rights organizations, and also an Israeli human rights organization. Surprise, an Israeli human rights organization called B'Tselem, right? If you search the name of B'Tselem, B''T''S''ELEM or something along those lines, who have all called out the human rights abuses that are going on from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and from the Israeli government. So again, this is a political issue, not a religious one. So there have been some videos and there have been some issues going on with anti-Semitism in the UK, with some very silly people, trying to stupidly, I'd say, support the Palestinian cause by saying death to Jews and other anti-Semitic remarks, which is uncalled for. Obviously, as we know, Islam teaches to respect all religions and to treat non-Muslims peacefully if they're not doing any harm to us. And the Jews of this country, for the most part, are fine. They would like to coexist with us Muslims, and they have no issue with us for the most part. Right.
Yeah. And not even that, like there are Jews who are supporting the cause.
Yeah. And so you are ruining the cause by going this far.
Like Saad mentioned, it is a political issue, not a religious one. Right? This isn't a fight between Jews and Muslims or anything like that, This is a political issue. This is a stance. This is about the occupation of Palestine. Right, I'm gonna say that again. Occupation of Palestine, because #Palestine in it.
I mean, bro, we don't need to. We don't need to subjectively even, I'd say laugh it off as occupation. Like, oh, it's occupation because clearly no. I mean, objectively, 100%. It's occupation. The UN has called this occupation. Yeah, this is literally an occupation. The crime they are committing, the war crimes they are committing, are literally war crimes. They're not. We're not anything we say here in terms of language, like apartheid, like occupation, like war crimes, they're not hyperbolic, meaning they're not exaggerated to the point of being purposely exaggerated. They're not like that. These are actual literal war crimes. If you look up the definition of apartheid war crime on Wikipedia, right, apartheid brackets war crime, the literal definition is what Israel is doing right now. Right, and this has been classed as an apartheid by the UN. If I'm fairly certain, it's definitely been they've definitely been called war crimes by the UN, and it's definitely been called an occupation by the UN.
It's crazy, man. Going back to one thing Saad said, right, about Israel, right? If it didn't exist, they'd create another one. That's crazy, right? It's crazy to think that us Muslims, right? Some of us, we think it is enough to just post something on our Instagram or change our profile pictures, yeah? Now, alhamdulillah, doing these type of things as a collective group is good to do, but it's not enough, innit? Right? Some of us think that this is enough to condemn or to bring them to justice. After you see how important they are to the West, you think that us posting something is enough. Like that's crazy, man. That's crazy. The reason why we need to know about what's happening, the reason why we need to know about the importance of the Israeli state to the Western world is so that we know what's happening, so that we know what we need to do, we need to do, innit?
Yep.
We need to know what we're fighting against.
Just to kind of interject here, Muhammad, I think you mentioned an important point, right? Is that, alhamdulillah, anyone listening to this podcast most likely is somewhere over the age of 18 or maybe close to it, right? Or so you're either close to 18 or you're probably well over, according to our demographics.
And if you're not 18 yet, then quickly become 18. What are you doing? You're slacking.
No, according to our demographics, most of the people listening to this are adults, right? And so what does that mean? It means that voting is an option for us. And what does that
It means
mean?
our podcast is too boring for kids. Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not we're too boring. We're gonna talk about bills and tax and it's nah. But what I'm trying to say here is, yes, social media posts and social media awareness is important, but what is also important is that your local MP, your representative for your council, etc., etc., you vote them. You literally go to the voting booths, and you mark a little X on whoever you think would be a great candidate for your council or would be the best candidate, right? And so it's important for us to read the manifestos, read what these MPs are saying about Israel. Some of them are snakes. Some of them will pander to the Muslim community or minority communities, right? But if you look at their past record, they will have no past record of standing up for these communities or fighting for them, right? So it's not. The reason why I say this is a lot of Muslims will just automatically vote Labour, and I'm not saying all of Labour MPs are snakes, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying some of them might be, right? So it's important to
you kind of just grow up within it. You see your parents.
Exactly.
voting
Yeah.
Labour.
It's Labour option because Tories are.
Yeah, I think that's equivalent of like how us Muslims and some of us would just like blind follow the religion.
Yeah.
You know, we do it because our parents do it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You know, we follow Labour because our parents follow Labour.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Don't
that's
follow Labour
yeah.
because you want it, man.
Read the manifesto, bro. These manifestos. So I don't know why people think these are like long documents, like 60 pages long, a whole flipping thesis. They're not that long. They're not meant to be that long. Mostly because they want people to read them and see what they stand for, right? Or at least on the surface, see what they stand for. So these manifestos aren't really long documents. They're maybe a couple of pages at most. Maybe 10 pages at most.
Even with how long they are, right?
Yeah.
You know, most often, like these are things that directly affect us.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to, you know, imagine, right? Our countries, they're trying to ask us our opinion on how we want things to be run, right? And then we're like, CBA.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to watching Netflix instead. Like, come on, just read it. It's not that deep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying 10 pages, bro. I highly doubt that would be even a thing. Like a lot of these, like I'm looking at, I'm looking at Keir Starmer. You know Keir Starmer, the leader of Labour Party, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at his main page right now. He literally has a graphic for 10 short points what he stands for. So you can just look at these and
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And not even like there are Instagram pages and etc. Who condense a lot of these information, right? Yeah. And you know, wagwaning.
Yeah.
Wagwaning.
Yeah. And so obviously not just voting with your wallet in terms of the charity that you're giving. Alhamdulillah, that's good. May Allah bless you guys for that, whoever's giving charity, right? But charity ultimately, remember, is a short-term solution. You can't keep giving charity forever. What happens when you die? You know, in the 50 years, 100 years, you know, no one's gonna be giving charity anymore. Not from you. You know, you're not gonna be giving charity anymore. Maybe your children are, maybe your grandchildren are. But they're short-term solutions.
Yeah, definitely. With charity, sorry to stop you there, Saad. We have to think about this very, very, very logically, right? Because sometimes, you know, we need to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes when we think about helping the Palestinian cause, sometimes we think, okay, you know what? I'm going to do something so that I can feel good about myself, right? And that's often why some people give charity, is so that they can feel good. At least I did something in it, you know. Sometimes the charity becomes an excuse for you, right, to do nothing else. And that is something that you should really be aware of, because if you think about it, what does the charity do? A lot of these charities are to help the Palestinian Muslim brothers and sisters who are in trouble right now, right? You know, the people on the ground or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is to help
team directly.
Exactly, is to help people who are in the ground right now, right? But that doesn't mean that the money you give is going to help the situation overall, right? Now, does that mean that we abandon the people on the ground and we don't help them in the meantime? No, of course not. It means we do both. We help the people on the ground in the meantime because we need to, right? We can't just, put them on standby, or anything like that. We can't just put them on pause. They're human beings. We need to help them now. But at the same time, we need to fix the situation overall in the long term, right? So we can't just think about charity alone. We have to think about other things, right? So yeah, so I'd continue.
Yeah, so as I was saying, these it's important to remember that as adults we all have a hand in the political decisions that are made in the UK. They might not be, 100% democratic. If you look at how the UK democracy works, not all of it involves the people. There are some aspects of it, obviously, that don't involve the people, or at least if my memory serves me correctly. But who you vote for in terms of your council and how many seats are elected nationally in an election, etc., etc. You do play a part in that, right? And some people might, for example, I'll give you an example. The mayor elections, right, in London recently, right, not too long ago, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. There was a popular YouTuber who I'm pretty sure you guys may have heard of. I don't know. Nico Omilana. Right. Yeah. And so he was running for mayor.
Oh my god, that was the funniest thing ever.
The joke is funny. Like, he got 11% of the votes, right?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he got I think he got 11% of votes. He actually beat a legit candidate. He beat 2 or 3 legit candidates.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Now, listen. The joke is funny, but I don't know. I don't look into the candidates he beat. But by the off chance, if it was a candidate that could have better represented, your interests, then your vote should really be going to them, not as a joke to some guy, right? So
it just showed, imagine that 11%. That is, if you think about it, it might not sound like a big amount, but that is actually the youth, right? A lot of that is going to be the young people, right? Out of the 11%, maybe 90% of it is young people in it, right? Imagine how much they actually care about voting, that they just make a joke out of it and vote for the guy, man.
Exactly.
That's what's happening. This is how much
people that voted for Harambe.
This is how much 89% of the youth actually care about politics, bro. That just shows, in it.
I mean, I would argue, sometimes it's not entirely their fault, because politics can be boring.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault, definitely. But that is reality, innit?
Politics is boring, but like Muhammad said, a lot of these online, especially on social media, this information has been condensed a lot, and you can, it's not hard to follow someone on Twitter or follow someone on Instagram that can help you understand this information. And if you are really, 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 out of it, then just literally look at, online news sources and articles. They frame it in a basic language because their audience is mostly the general public, right? Obviously, bear in mind that the news media may be biased towards certain candidates and have a agenda against other candidates. It might be possible, so just bear that in mind. Now, speaking of the news media, obviously Muhammad said that the news does control the narrative, and in terms of the Palestine issue, I'm sure many of you know that a lot of the news media is quite biased against Palestine, and has a pro agenda towards Israel, or Israeli sentiment, or Zionist sentiment, you could say. And this is outlined by the fact that, for example, the BBC reported that a certain amount of Israelis had been killed, and I think a certain amount of Palestinians had died. Right, so the use of language there is a clear indicator as to which side they're supporting. Yeah,
and for sure, never think that they did this by coincidence. That wording, they did that on purpose. 100% they did that on purpose.
This wording gets checked by them, by the editors, by seniors, by everyone.
Yeah,
right.
So for them, they get trained. They get trained to write in a way, they know what they're doing. What do you call it? Journalism, in it. That's the subject. In that they get trained to, write it in a way, like we say, where you control the narrative. Right? Where, okay, I'm going to use a certain type of wording. If I use it like this, or if I phrase it like this, it's going to have a different emotional response to the reader. Right? They know these things. They're not stupid. They know what has an emotional response, a good one, what has a bad one, what doesn't have one, what has a strong one, what doesn't. And we need to, and it's crazy. I remember listening I think it was maybe 2 years ago. There was a talk, and the person, it was she. I think she did like her dissertation or something around this topic in it, of how the media manipulates the way they deliver information in it, right? And it's crazy, bro. It's crazy how they word things and etc. You will never, unless you know about these things specifically, you would never clock it, bro.
Yeah.
You would never clock it.
Yeah.
Right. So that being said,
I just have one final point.
Okay, go on.
I'll give one final point, and then I'll pass on to you too, inshallah. So, just regarding one kind of point I wanted to mention in regards to Hamas, right? Everyone talks about Hamas this, Hamas that. Especially the media likes to play the card of, well, Hamas is doing this, so why not? The main thing, we must push as a point is, yes, all Muslims are not stupid, and yes, all Muslims condemn Hamas. Yeah, I don't know why that needs to be said. All Muslims do condemn Hamas's actions. Hamas are using civilian, locations. Hamas are potentially, and maybe in reports they have been confirmed to, I think, use Palestinians or civilians as human shields, right? Hamas have been creating conflicts over routes where aid can be supplied, right? So Hamas is doing these things, and no Muslim supports Hamas, right? We don't support what Hamas is doing, and they're classed as a terrorist organization. At least their militia wing, I think, is classed as a terrorist organization by the UN. But who's condemning Israel? No one. Right? No one.
Who's condemning the other terrorists?
No one's condemning Israel. Wow. Okay.
For real.
Let's count. Let's count how.
I just threw that, bro. I just threw that out.
Bro, legit. Okay.
Which is doing 10.
BBC says Hamas. Guardian, I think, says Hamas. Probably, I don't know, Washington Post or whichever news media says Hamas. Hamas. Where's Israel condemnation? Nope, silence. Another one. Look at maybe BBC. No. Guardian. No. New York Times. Nope. I can't see anything. So there's no condemnation of Israel, but there's lots of condemnation of Hamas. Now, Israel's been called, he has been accused of committing war crimes. They've been accused of committing apartheid, and they've been, creating illegal settlements, right? Illegal settlements. These are illegal by UN law. These are illegal. And also, might I add, using illegal weapons, banned weapons like white phosphorus. White phosphorus has been banned for a while, a very long time now, I think. I don't know how long actually. Maybe since the 80s. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. But it's been banned for a while now, white phosphorus as a weapon. So they're using illegal weapons, right? So why is no one condemning these things? I mean, I'm pretty sure Hamas doesn't have access to white phosphorus. And
bear in mind these illegal weapons they're using. They're not using against uniformed soldiers.
Yeah, they're using against
fighting for Palestine.
Yeah.
They're using against civilians,
yeah.
Men, women, and children.
And people like to point out Hamas's, bases everywhere. They're everywhere. I don't think Hamas was in that AP building, the Associated Press and Al Jazeera building that the Israelis bombed. Because if they were, then I'm pretty sure the AP and Al Jazeera probably would have reported that, yes, there's Hamas here, please get us out of here, we don't want to be near terrorists. And I also don't think there was any Hamas in those many schools that you bombed. I also think that there wasn't any Hamas in that COVID lab that you bombed. And I also don't think, the media outlets and the hospitals and the schools and the playgrounds and the normal homes that really weren't anywhere near Hamas. And forget all of that. When you make an accusation that this person is in this place, provide evidence. Where's your evidence? They provided no evidence that Hamas is doing any of this in these areas, etc., etc. Maybe the evidence they have provided is very few and far between, but it does not excuse any of the actions they've been doing.
100%.
That's my final point.
100%. Have you seen those interviews where reporters will ask biased questions, obviously biased leading questions?
Yep.
And then the person who they're interviewing doesn't fall and they just fire back.
Yeah.
And it's just so satisfying.
Yep.
You can't blame them because it's their job and they're literally told that that's what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
I think even if reporters and stuff, even if they don't support Israel and Zionism, they still have to do that because That's
No,
literally what they're superior to.
yeah, exactly.
They'll get
man.
fired
It's their
if
boss
they
in
don't.
it.
And you'll see them off
You know.
losing their job and doing something else.
Like one AP journalist got fired for making pro-Palestinian comments recently, I think, if I remember correctly.
That's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah, so they'll get fired
It's
for,
crazy,
for
man.
calling it out. If they say anything, then they will get fired for it.
Yeah. No, like if you look at the BBC, for example, innit? You know, it may not necessarily be the ones that are hosting, you know, the BBC radio or the BBC news reporters, you know. It is the one that's right at the top.
Yep.
You know, the CEO, the CFO of BBC is them lot. You know, them lot that are the Zionists, right? Now, talking about all of this, right now is a very clear. There is a very clear picture, right, for us right now. Listening to this podcast, not everyone else. That Israeli Zionists, right? They have control. They monopolized the media, right? Right. I could say maybe even more than 80% of the world population, right?
I think. Hang on, just a very general point to be made here, right? Now, what we're saying here is speculation. I think it's important to make that clear, right?
Yeah, speculation.
It's speculation, and it's
right?
important to
trying
know.
to say majority, you know.
Majority could be speculation as well. I think it's important to be fair here. I think what we should say rather instead is
Majority of the Western world.
well, I'd be hesitant to say even that. What I think is the majority of the media aren't Zionists themselves, right? But they will promote a Zionist agenda, or they will promote what Israel is doing, mainly because it sells. That's what the media is about, right? So they're not purely sympathizers. Rather, they will just put in the paper what sells, and what gets clicks essentially, right? Because their audience might be Zionist sympathizers, right? So, you know, there may have been cases.
I wouldn't say not the audience, right? The investors in it.
Yeah, the investors.
The people that put money into them.
Whoever's funding them, and whoever sees their website, and whoever gets them clicks and popularity and attention, that's who they're gonna target. And they
sugar
don't just
daddies,
do,
innit?
yeah, they don't just do this with Zionism and pro-Israeli propaganda. They will also do this with I don't know, for example, the left. For example, they might portray the left in a bad way, right? Like the BLM movements, the LGBTQ movements, etc.
But in any case,
Yeah.
the clear picture is that guess what? They have control
Yeah, they have
of the
massive
reins,
influence,
right? What do we need to do then, right? I guess the first step, right? This is more of a long-term solution that we mentioned, you know, in previous episodes, isn't it? Which is, you know, for our kids to actually go into media, for what, right? We, you know, a simple solution is to have Muslim representation. That's it. In any sort of situation, right? In politics, right? If there's an issue where the Muslims aren't being represented, then put a few Muslims in the, you know, into parliament. You get what I mean, right? The same thing with BBC. Put a few Muslims into it. What we need is Muslim representation. What happens after that is, guess what? Next time BBC try and do something, then they have to remember, oh wait, I got some, you know, Muslim employees, and those Muslim employees, maybe everyone else, they might do something, right, that they think is completely fine, right? But then the Muslim employee, he realizes, because he himself is a Muslim, he realizes, okay, no, this is wrong, and then he lets everyone else know.
Yeah.
That's what it means to have our voice represented, right? So I guess the first step is that, innit? Is, you know, to be confident in going into these type of professions, and for our kids to go into these professions, right? But this is more of a long-term thing, and I want to talk about right now. What could we do right now? I think the first step is, you know, use modern day media, which is social media, right? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of this, right? We need to utilize that, right? And we're already doing it. We're already doing it by posting, you know, information about Palestine and about things that we can do, right? You know, a lot of us are already doing this. This is amazing. This is us taking back, you know, control over the narrative, right? Now, that's the first step in it, you know, to, in our own individual social media platforms, to, you know, post about these things, to bring awareness to these things. The second thing we need to do is to support Muslim media outlets that are actually talking about these things. You know, it doesn't have to be something that's on TV. You know, it could be a YouTube channel. Maybe like, let's say, okay, I saw, you know, Smile to Jannah. He made such an amazing video talking about all these different things, right? And it's nice and congested. Is that the word?
Condensed.
Condensed. Yeah, that's the word. It's nice and condensed, isn't it? Right? He's doing such an amazing job, right? Let me promote this brother. Let me support this brother. Let me advertise him, you know, and etc. In it, whatever way you can support him, let me support him, right? Oh, I saw Muhammad Hijab. He did something amazing. Okay, maybe I saw, you know, Al Jazeera. You know, do they talk about Palestine?
Yeah, they do.
Right? So support them. You know, that's what we should be doing, right? Support media, Muslim media outlets that you see are talking about Palestine, right? What else could we do, lads? You know, in terms of media. Okay, imagine that was on the post, innit? Okay, so with that all said, innit, you know, we mentioned a few ways that we can sort of support the Palestinian cause through media. Are there any other ways, Tahmid and Saad, that we can support through media?
Ahmed, you want to go first?
So yeah, as Mohammed mentioned, supporting smaller or Muslim-based active people that are, you know, actively following the situation, such as YouTubers, and that is very important, because obviously we know the mainstream media is brainwashed and it's not accurate. Also, with the media, journalism is a very strong route. For example, my sister, she studies journalism, so she's got a route kind of set ahead of her, inshallah.
A big shout out to Tahmid's sister.
Inshallah, make dua for her, innit?
Inshallah.
Ameen.
So she's like already on that route, and she can essentially get into that sector and become, you know, a person who can represent. And that's good, and that's what we should be aiming for more. Obviously, that's a long-term goal, as you said as well.
Yeah.
There's also many teams, relief teams, people that are actively helping that we can't directly see or touch, but we can see them through, you know, through the efforts of other people. Like, there's this one team called the Gaza Relief Team. They've been uploading videos every day, and I've been watching them because someone else posts them on his story, one of my friends, and then they update the situation literally every day live from Gaza. And this is literally raw footage from Gaza. Like, they show them rushing to help people in hospitals and stuff like that. And this is the kind of content you want to push out. So sharing stuff like that, rather aside from Instagram posts and, you know, typical text posts and stuff, sharing raw footage and things like that is
100%.
Is
and
very,
I think
very important.
I think to add to that as well, it also brings a human element of it. You know,
sure.
Sometimes, like you know, Saad mentioned it before as well. You know, especially when you have such big weapons like, you know, bombs, right? That essentially make victims into just numbers, right, on a spreadsheet. When you have something like that happen, it is very difficult for us to see them as human beings. When you hear like, 123 people died, we just see that as a number. But when you see that, that's 123 living human beings, each of them who had lives, who had dreams, who had families, who had people that loved them, right, died. That hits differently, man. And that's why what Ahmed mentioned, right, these sort of raw videos and pictures of people there, patients there, hospitals there, what's happening there. That's why it's never not worth sending these sort of things, you know. Even the ones that are like, you know, the ones that say, what do you call it, like graphic content or something like that, right? Send those. Don't be afraid to send them, right? What's the worst that can happen, right? Now, A'udhu Billah, maybe Instagram blocks your account, right? Is that honestly the worst thing that can happen to you? You know, like compared to what the fight that they're going against in Palestine, you know.
I actually saw something quite commendable from a lady in Parliament when she was talking about the situation. she started listing names one by one of children, actual children that had died in the bombings and airstrikes, and it kind of just hit deep, and brought in a real human element into it. Because when she was speaking, she was listing off their names and their ages, and it was very, very honorable thing to do, and respect for that. And also, hits everyone with a reality check. Like, they're not just numbers; they're actual lives.
For
and
sure,
not to
man.
mention
For sure.
kids, children,
Yeah.
people that hadn't even grown yet.
Yeah, and it's not their lives that you affect; it's everyone around them. Do you think that, if a mother's son dies, do you think the mum's not going to be affected by that? Man, the mum's going to be in even worse pain. She's going to be affected worse than death. You get what I mean? Right? It doesn't just affect the people that have died. They've died. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them Jannah as martyrs. What's worse is for the people that are still alive, that are still here. And that's why, sometimes we think, oh, they've died, it's too late. It's not too late. Everyone else they've left behind is still there, and they still need us to save them, right? Another thing. Sorry,
I was saying, did you hear about families that would say they're sleeping in the same rooms, so that if they were attacked or bombed, they would all die together rather than
man, because man, you don't want to be the last one to die. I'd hate that.
Living to mourn on without each other.
Exactly, man. And not even that, is like, when you have to stay behind, right? Do you think you can even bury your family members properly? You think you can give them a nice janazah like we do over here in the UK? You won't be able to, man. Right? You won't even be able to find the body parts. Right? I know I'm being very crude here, with how I'm saying it, innit? But that's the reality of it. Like, they're blown up. You can't gather their body parts and bury them properly. Right? It is torment for them afterwards. Right? Because they can't even lay them to rest properly.
And there have been reports, I think, of the Israeli military and the idea of even storming funerals, if I'm correct. So they didn't even give them a chance to grieve.
Man. Subhanallah, they do that.
I think so. I think I heard somewhere there was a report that.
Oh my God. Well, if that's true, man, that is awful, because that's just absolutely no respect, bro. Like, they're already dead, bro. Can you leave them alone? Nah. If that's true, oh my God, definitely check it. But alright. So, one piece of advice I'd give, in terms of when it comes to media, is speak it into existence. Right? What I mean by this is have a discussion with your friends. Right? The first step when it comes to the issue that's happening in Palestine, and the reason why right now a lot of people are actually talking about it, is because people spoke it into existence. Right? The more we talk about it between ourselves, the more we discuss about Palestine, right, with our friends and stuff, right, the more we acknowledge the reality of what's going on in Palestine, the more we acknowledge it as an issue, right? Definitely, Tahmid, right? If, let's say, in a month, right, if in a month we spoke about 10 different issues, yeah, right? 9 of them were about problem A, and 1 of them was about problem B. Just based on that, what do you think is more? What do you think was the bigger problem during that month?
Problem A, of course.
Problem A, because we spoke about it more, right? This is what we need to do. We need to have this discussion with ourselves and with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, right? With people, in your societies or whatever you do. I don't know if uni societies are doing anything now because of COVID, but if they are in it, talk about these things. Why? So that we can bring it into reality, so that we can acknowledge the situation, what's going on, right? And one thing that we do, like with our ASD page, is that for this episode, for example, we on our story we asked you guys do you guys have any ideas on what we can do to help our Muslim brothers and sisters, right? When we asked that question, right, not only was it because we wanted to know what ideas you guys have, so that we can figure out the best ideas for this episode, but also for you guys to think about it. We don't just want to tell you guys, oh, do this and that. We want you guys to think about, okay, what is it you can do, you know? And I'm sure, like, Saad, how many responses did we get? We only posted that story today. How many responses did we get?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, wait.
9.
4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, probably like somewhere near 10, maybe.
Alright, sweet. So we got 10 responses, right? That's 10 different people who saw our story and they actually spent some time thinking, you know what? What is it that I can do to help Palestine? Now imagine that. Do you think that time went to waste? Or do you think that time is going to be something that's sort of like an investment for the future? That's going to remain as an investment for the future? Because as soon as we start thinking about solutions, automatically we've done half the job, bro. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Half the job is just us thinking about it. Half the job is just getting all the Muslims on the table so that we can actually talk about these things, right? So when it comes to media, the biggest like point I would push is start a discussion. You know, use your page or promote other discussions on other pages
and personalize your posts. You know, maybe add a dua there so people can say Ameen, or maybe add different like elements to it. Maybe explaining something, you know, whatever.
Someone said that, right? So someone said that,
yeah,
right?
that was one of the responses. Yeah, that was responses.
Who was it? Give them a nice little shout out.
Selihom, Sellihom.
Okay, shout out to you.
He or
So
she said
that's
add your own
that-
voices on your platforms and posting about it. It's more personal.
Is a she. Me and Tommy knows
Okay,
it.
right. It's a she then. There you go.
Yeah. So that's one. Is there any other responses you want to add to that we haven't mentioned?
There was someone that gave quite a long response and it's quite well. It was really good.
Yeah.
Quite a long one, but it was good.
Is there anything from that long response that's like worth pointing out?
Let me just get it up now actually, because I did actually quite like it. When they were talking about younger Muslims standing up in situations of injustice.
Yeah. Who was it, by the way?
Specifically younger Muslims.
Who was it, by the way? Was it Sully?
I'm not sure.
You blocked out the name. Let me check.
Did I?
Yeah, on the story. It's on the story. I'll just go on the DMs.
Yeah. If you go in the DMs, you'll find it. Oh, Jahid.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jahid, he also has a podcast. Let me try and find the name of his podcast so we can shout it out as well. MashaAllah, man, this brother, he doesn't have the name of his podcast in his bio, bro.
So I'll just read off what he said whilst you find the name.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said his advice would be that we've seen the power that young Muslims can have when standing up against oppression and injustice and opposition. Because young Muslims are the future of Islam and the backbone of Islam. And if we look at our history, and he named examples such as Mus'ab ibn Umair, Tariq bin Ziyad, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Muhammad al-Fatih, etc. They always did what was the best, what was for the betterment of Islam and Muslims, and they always made sacrifices to give up everything they had, or anything they had to give up for the sake of the deen and the sake of uniting Muslims and the sake of, reaching justice, essentially. And he said, and he ended it with, but remember that the mountains of reward you'll receive on the day of Qiyamah for being the generation of Muslims who stood up against oppression and made changes for Islam.
I remember, I remember, I think I saw a post, right? It was about, I can't remember who it was like some sort of like Israeli ambassador who was invited to give some sort of talk. I think Cambridge University, right, or one of the universities in it. And in the post, they mentioned that when he came in, obviously he was trying to give his excuses and etc. in it, trying to obviously justify what the Israeli state is doing and etc. Right? The students during that talk, you know what they did? They all stood up
they
and
left.
walked out.
Yeah. That was
They all
joke.
walked out, and that was amazing.
Powerful.
Now, like that act over there, right? I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about it in two ways. Well, two things about that, right? Firstly, people had two opinions on it. You know, if you looked at the comment section, people had two opinions on it. Obviously, one opinion is that, yo, of course, this is what we should be doing because my man be giving us excuses. He's talking out of his bum. Obviously, I'm going to leave. I don't support this. I'm going to leave. Right?
Yeah.
That was one of the viewpoints. The other viewpoint was, okay, this was immature. This isn't how we do it. This wasn't respectful, etc. Right? Now, before you guys give your opinion, in my opinion, I think the first viewpoint is correct. Right? I think what they did that day was 110% the right thing to do, right? And the reason for that is because, listen, if you are trying to uphold justice, yeah, if you are trying to fight something that is wrong in the world, then guess what? You need a bit of a backbone. You need to be firm in that. You know, think back in history, right? Even Western history, bro. The suffragettes, do you think they were like very respectful and etc.? Nah,
And
you know,
conforming and agreeing.
exactly. Like you
Giving
have
their
to
lives
look.
to get that
right.
across.
If it's so easy, right, to free Palestine, that we could have done it, you know, very respectfully, very nicely, and etc., then guess what? It would have already been done. It would have already been done, right? If you want to make a change, you need to firstly be 100% confident in the change you want to make. And when you are 100% confident, then guess what? You have to stand by that viewpoint with every fiber of your being, bro. You can't sit there and talk about hashtag Free Palestine and attend a talk by an Israeli ambassador. You can't. It doesn't work, right? Right now, everyone thinks that, wait, no, that does make sense. Oh, you're being a bit too, narrow-minded if you do. Literally, if you look at it in any other circumstance, yeah, right? If someone is doing an atrocity, right, in any other circumstance, it would be okay for me to not accept it. But in this one, I have to. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Let's not make what the Israeli state is doing to Palestine. Let's not make that an exception to the rules of justice, to the rules of, I don't know, what do you call it, humanitarian rules. Let's not make that an exception, right? We need to, like in any other case, we need to make sure that people know the gravity or the seriousness of it, you know. So definitely, I agreed with them. What about you guys? I guess I said that bad times.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree with you as well. And there were people saying that, oh, what's the point of turning up then and going to one and just not attend at all?
Because that makes a statement, bro.
Exactly.
Imagine how much more of a statement that made than than you would have been able to make with one of your Instagram posts. Come on.
Not turning up is essentially just ignorance, right? Because
Yeah.
in a sense it can be viewed as ignorance, but if you turn up and then leave, it's not ignorance anymore. It's a protest.
Right now, right there, you just showed your political stance.
It's like you proved it and you stood your ground.
You showed that. Listen, I'm not having this.
Exactly.
Imagine what was happening in that room, right? Israeli ambassador came in. He was giving excuses, bro. He was giving excuses, trying to justify his actions, and everyone stood up and left. What does that mean? They said, listen, I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about your excuses. That's what they said by standing up and leaving, right? Sometimes not saying anything can have an even bigger impact in it. And should I tell you the only time it has a bigger impact? The only time being silent has a bigger impact is when you have an action instead. Right? When you do something, it will have a bigger impact. But that doesn't mean if you're not doing anything and you're not saying anything, then guess what? That means you're just not doing anything at all, okay? Don't think you're having an impact like that, right? These lot, they had an impact because they did something, right? And that's more than saying something. But saying something is also more than doing nothing. Yeah, man. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, man. Ameen. But yeah, Saad.
Yeah, man.
Sounds like yeah, man.
I mean, you guys have very much hit all the nails on the head, so I don't think I need to really repeat what you guys said.
Now, with that said, innit, obviously, like, no disrespect to anyone, you know, who is there, like, oh, you know, this is wrong, this is disrespectful. Like, 100%, you know, we do want to be respectful at the end of the day. You know, we do want to be kind, we do want to be nice to everyone, you know. That is what we want, innit? That is what we're fighting for. But we need to know the reality of things, and we need to bring account. We need to have the people who we need to what do you call it? Bring them to account. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And only after that you can be kind to them if you want. But firstly, bring them to account, then be kind to them, man. Okay. So yeah, I guess did we miss anything else? Oh yeah, the boycotts. That's the main bit. That's the main bit, wasn't it? Jeez. Okay, so we'll go into that then, innit? If there's anything else. Huh?
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Alright, so I guess the last bit to talk about is something that is quite, I guess it's on a lot of people's minds, innit? You know, because it's going around a lot, and it's about boycotting Israeli products. And I guess what I want to talk about right now is with you guys is sort of the practicality behind that, right? Is it realistic for us to boycott Israeli products? Even if we do boycott Israeli products, will that actually have an effect on the Israeli economy, right? Because that's the main purpose of it, right? The reason why we want to boycott Israeli products is to put on an economic pressure on Israel, right? And that's the purpose of it. So does that actually do that? Will us boycotting actually put pressure on them, economically speaking, right? And if boycotting isn't the best thing to do, are there other things we can do? And I guess the first thing to do by starting this this topic is by saying so I looked a little bit into sort of the current day economy of Israel, right? And if we look at the current day economy of Israel, they are less susceptible to boycotts, right? And the main reason for this is because nowadays, you know, more on an international level, Israeli exports involve more unique and higher quality products, right? And because of this, they are it's less it's harder to replace them, in it, you know, because they're more unique products, in it. Because let's say if it's a simple thing as Israeli bread, you can replace it with some other bread, right? Because bread is a common common goods, right?
Yeah.
But for them, for Israel, a lot of their income is coming from more unique and higher quality goods, right? Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that there's no point of boycotting Israeli products? Of course not. We should boycott Israeli products. But what it means is we need to be a bit more smart about it. You know, we need to boycott. Firstly, we need to boycott products that will actually have a hit on the Israeli economy, right? And boycotting these products are as simple as, okay, you know what? I'm gonna boycott everything from them, and that's it, right? For most people, it's not as simple as that, because we need replacements now, right? And in my opinion, the best way to go about it is find replacements by Muslims, right? if you want to boycott Israeli products, this is a perfect time to support Muslim products then, right? Even if the Muslim products cost more money, why don't we spend more money on them? Why don't we support them? Saad, I heard recently, not recently, this was maybe a few years back, innit? A couple of Muslim brothers, maybe two brothers, millionaire brothers, they bought Asda.
Oh yes, I think this was the Euro garages dudes. I'll have to check though. 1 sec, give me a second. Muslim brothers buy Asda. Yeah, 2nd October 2020. Muslim billionaire brothers buy Asda. I think these were the guys that owned the Euro garages. Yeah, the Issa
exactly.
brothers
That's
own
crazy.
EG Group, which has more than 5,200 petrol stations across the UK and Europe. I think this is Euro
That's
garages.
crazy,
dudes,
man.
Yeah.
So now, so why don't we support like people like that, man? Why don't we support those brothers who brought Asda, and support products for them to bring into Asda, instead of buying products from Sainsbury's, which we know are Israeli products.
Yep.
Right? So we need to be practical in that sense, right? So I guess I'll give it over to you guys, innit? Firstly, guys, what do you think about the boycott? Do you think we should do it?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Why?
It's an effective tool that is should
Little
work.
changes still change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trust. Like, if you think about the numbers, just strictly the numbers, if every Muslim, which obviously won't happen, but every single Muslim was to boycott food products, Israeli products, and stuff, it would make a significant dent. Because there's over.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing though. You just said it, but that won't happen.
It won't happen. Yeah,
So why do I care about something that won't happen then? Like,
it
damn
won't
it.
happen to that scale, but it doesn't mean it's not worth the effort.
Damn it.
Because like you said, we have to try 10 times.
If you said, okay, if 50% of of the ummah, right, boycotted Israel, and that would have a significant effect, right? And then at the same time 50% is realistic, then fair enough. That number actually matters. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're telling me that, okay, if 100% of Muslims boycott Israel, it's going to have an effect, but there's no way there's a chance that even 50% of Muslims are going to do it, then guess what? It doesn't, like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter how much of an effect 100% can have. We're not even getting 100%, so what's the point?
Yeah, no, I said for the sake of example, 100%.
Yeah.
It's not a realistic assumption.
Yeah.
A realistic assumption would be probably barely less than 10%, and that would be scaling it. But that's 10% is still a large number. And to be honest, the more you push it, the more you keep doing it, the more it will affect, because the more you see people boycotting products, even if you continue buying it yourself or other people continue buying it, the more
and I think
keep doing it, the more you'll be influenced. That's how so much influence happens. That's how change happens through persistence. Change doesn't come just by one or two tries, one effort. It comes through persistence and patience. And if some people stuck to it, it would influence other people, and then eventually you'd get the ball rolling.
And I think, to add to that, we're thinking about Muslims, right? Guess what? If us Muslims are boycotting Israeli products and other people see it, then guess what?
Yeah, exactly.
Other non-Muslims are also going to be boycotting. And that's the case right now,
For sure.
right? There are non-Muslims right now, today, who are boycotting Israeli products because they see us doing it. They see us posting about it, So their numbers add up to our numbers. So I don't think it is, the reason why I asked you that question in it, Ahmed, about the 100% and the 10%, is because I don't think it is feasible for us to look at it in that way, in the sense that, guess what, like Saad said from the beginning, this isn't a religious issue, bro. It's a political one. It isn't something that only involves Muslims or only affects Muslims, right?
Very true.
Us fighting for Palestine doesn't mean us not taking help from anyone else, us doing it just by ourselves. It means that we need to do everything we can to help Palestine. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And that includes getting help from anyone else we can. Are we going against Al-Aqsa by asking our white friends for help? Of course not. Of course not. So Tahmid, if we do that, like let's say if I boycott Israeli products, you boycott Israeli products, Saud boycotts Israeli products, Tahmid, what would happen if you tell 10 of your friends to do it, and then I tell 10 of my friends to do it, Saud tells 10 of his friends to do it? You know? I guess the biggest problem is people actually doing it or not. You know, a lot of people, they say like, hey, yeah, hashtag boycott Israel, right? And then they buy a Coca-Cola. You know?
Yeah, and then
like
McDonald's. Literally, I've stopped. I've told my sisters we're not going to McDonald's anymore. Like, we used to go quite often, and then it's like, we're not going anymore.
Exactly, it's like,
even though we're just one person, so it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. And that's the reality of it, innit? Like, a lot of people, they're doing exactly this. It's because they're not taking it seriously, man.
Exactly.
Like honestly, the boycott won't work. Jackal, it won't work, Jackal, if you don't take it seriously.
Exactly. It's kind of like the elections and voting. So many people didn't vote because they thought their vote wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, there were over just as many people that didn't vote that did.
Next thing you know is all the old people that vote who are gonna die in 2 years' time, and it is their vote that matters now.
Yeah.
You know,
I think,
and there is their opinion that is gonna affect the rest of your life.
I think an important
Yes, sir.
observation to be made here, before you wrap up, inshallah, is that remember with France, when France did their whole, obviously they had the Charlie Hebdo thing booming, and after that I forgot what happened, but I think it was a teacher that said that was okay or something, and then France didn't do something. I don't know. Remember something happened, and then over that whole situation, like not too long ago, quite recently I think, and then everyone started boycotting French products. Remember that?
I don't remember.
I'll pull up the news story. There was basically I think like Qatar and Kuwait and all these even Gulf states were starting to like remove from their supermarkets French products.
Yeah.
French products boycott. This was fairly recently. Yeah, 26 October. Campaign launched on social media to boycott French products across MENA, so Middle East and Africa, North Africa. A social media campaign has been launched calling for the boycott of French products from supermarkets across the Middle East and North Africa, in protest at President Macron's recent comments on Islam and his backing of satirical outlets publishing caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and then I remember some there were videos of some actual like people in stores and even store like managers and stuff, I think, removing products from their shelves, French products from their shelves from French companies, and that had a big effect, because you know what happened next? Macron was like, "No, what are you guys doing? Stop! No, don't do this. you guys are being silly. This that." I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was really angry. I remember him being like kind of angry about it. Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, look, France urges." BBC reported 25th October. So this was like in that period. It said, France urges Arab nations to prevent boycotts over Macron's cartoons. So they were like, "No, guys, please stop. No, these are baseless. Baseless calls for boycott of his goods." So it shows you that these countries actually do care, and they will an effect will be felt on their economy, because these products are massive. They're multi-billion-dollar industries, and if it's taken to the scale of, for example, a Gulf state or people in major supermarkets in these countries removing French products or whatever country's products, like Israel's products, off their shelves, then clearly it's going to be a massive change for them, and they're going to realize, look, right, okay, we can't mess about with this anymore. We have to make sure our propaganda is, and obviously from their side, from Israel's side or France's side, whoever's side, they'll try and improve their propaganda, and they'll be like, make a bigger push towards their media and promoting their agenda, right? And then obviously for us, it's a cat and mouse game of fighting back. They trying to improve and hide it more, fight back. They try to improve, and you can see this kind of game with China, where every time something's leaked, they say, "Oh no, this isn't true. Like, you know, Muslims are treated fine. We're not doing much. You know, we're just getting rid of the radicals and terrorists, etc., etc." And they try to brush it under the rug, right? And then we'll try and expose them more, and they'll try and do the same thing, and we'll try and expose them more. So it's just it's the state of the world how it is nowadays, where we have to play this cat and mouse game, and if we don't, then we're basically giving them the win, right? We have to keep pushing, and especially as Muslims who, you know, as the hadith states, that when one part of the ummah feels pain, the rest of the ummah feels pain, as if the ummah is one whole body.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but you know, it is important that we feel that pain alongside them.
Another massive, or two massive impacts that came through the product of like boycotting and raising awareness and stuff is one, the Maldives, I'm sure you've heard already, have completely suspended all imports from Israeli products, and
That is so sick.
yeah, everything. And
Shout out
just
to
completely-
Maldives.
legit just completely cut off all of it, and they're not taking anything to do with Israel,
Yeah,
basically.
and I think Ireland even
See,
goes to have
those-
sanctions on them,
Like
right?
that's what boycotting means.
Legit.
Like, it
And
is something
also
very
to-
serious, man. It is very strict. You can't have a
People take it
half-ass
serious.
boycott, man.
Yeah, for real, you have to take it serious. And it was Italian porters, I think, you know, people that work on the shipyards,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
when they send out, you know, crates and stuff for shipping. I think they refused to load ships with crates out of in protest for Israel.
That's so sick, man. That's so sick.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just shows, man, like,
Check
this
it
is a
out.
humanitarian crisis, right?
Facts.
It is something that any person who just wants humans to be treated like humans should support this cause, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is secondary to that, right? Your opinion on the occupation and etc. Now, I guess with that, amazing points, and I guess to sort of end it, you know, we need to remember that the idea of boycotting is something that is, you know, that existed even at the time of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is something that happened against us, right? And it is something that, you know, we also acknowledge as a way of putting economic pressure on people to do something, right? And it works. Boycotting, it works. You know, no one can argue that boycotting doesn't work, but it only works if we do it seriously. Now, how do we do it seriously, right? Like we said, you know, you can't just sit here and say hashtag boycott Israel and then go ahead and, you know, the next takeout you get, you buy a Coca-Cola with it. You know, it doesn't work like that, right? Now, I remember my dad, right, on a WhatsApp group chat, you know, he asked people, and this was a WhatsApp group chat, you know, with Muslim organizations and etc., right? And he asked them, like, okay, listen, I'm hearing a lot about boycotting Israeli products. I'm seeing a lot of lists, you know, of Israeli products to boycott, but I'm not seeing any alternatives to it. That's what my dad said in his message, innit? Right? When my dad sent that message, he asked, you know, could anyone provide alternatives to Israeli products? Right? And then he replied to my dad in it, and he just went at him, bro. He was like, oh, what do you mean replacements? Why do you need alternatives? Why do you need to drink fizzy drinks? Why can't you just drink water? You know? Stuff like that. And it's just so ridiculous what people are saying, man. You know? Because how can you promote the boycott of Israel when you yourself don't even understand it?
Yeah.
When you yourself don't even understand what it means, because clearly these people, they don't understand the fact that, guess what, you can't just boycott Israel and it be like that.
Yeah. Especially not with the product.
You have
lineup
to
they
actually
offer.
plan it.
Like, how many people in the world drink Coke? You know what I mean? They're not people.
Exactly.
People are. I'm sorry to say, like, even with all the atrocities Israel is committing, no one's gonna give up Coke. They won't do that. It's sad to say that Coke is more important than human rights for a lot of people, right? So they won't just give it up for the sake of it. Especially if there's no alternative for them. If there's knows that Muslim or Muslim backed or healthy or whatever alternative for them, like saying should you drink go and drink water, it's like everyone stop eating meat, everyone be vegan. It's not gonna work. You need to in light of this, what businesses have realized, I'll just give a quick example with the vegan meat issue, is that a lot of businesses have realized, okay, well, a lot of people are gonna stop eating meat, right, and just convert to a purely vegan diet of like salad and stuff, right, and fruit and vegetables or whatever. But rather, what they will do is they will be more attracted towards meat that is actually made from plant-based origins, right, and ingredients. So you see a lot of these companies investing in this market, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like they bring alternatives like veggie patties,
veggie burgers, or like
I remember if you go into Asda,
burgers
right,
that actually look like proper meat.
Section.
They look like proper meat.
Yeah, there's a section of Asda is like, it's vegan. What do you call it? Vegan pasta. Not vegan pasta. What do you call it? What's the meat one called? Lasagna. Yeah, vegan lasagna and stuff like that. Vegan meat pie. They had stuff like that and vegan burgers. Right. These are things you can get. And go on.
I was just saying, like, this in this market now, they have developed technology that will make it look like meat and taste like meat. Like, it'll have all the juicy aspects of meat and have all the
it would have the
flavor of meat, but it's made from plants, and that attracts people because they're like, well, we're getting the same experience, but it's healthier, and we're not.
And guess what? Are those people now like fake vegans?
No, they're real vegans,
right? Are they like, nah, these people, they're fakes? No, they're not eating meat. That's the main point. That's what we were trying to do in the first place. Whatever makes that easier, go for it. That's the main bit, is like making that easier, making that transition easier. And it's the same with this. Like, if someone comes to you and they're like, okay, you're talking about Israeli product, what should I eat? If you turn back to them and say, no, just don't eat anything, guess what? That's not going to work. And that's what we're trying to say here. We're not saying don't boycott Israel. No. When you boycott Israel, plan it out. You can't just do it. You have to actually plan it. Guess what? When you boycott Israel, you have to plan your alternatives for when you crave a Coca-Cola, when you crave a Pepsi, and all the other, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of what pretty much Sainsbury's, Tesco, all of it, man. Half of it is Zionist products.
Probably a large majority of what's in our stores right now is probably Israeli owned.
I'm pretty sure the management of those stores are Zionist as well. Like it's hard, man. It's hard. You can't just do it willy-nilly. Plan it out. And plan it out means find alternatives. Have it ready so that right now, before you even think about the next time you drink about Coke, you already know 10 different other things that you can have. When the next time you go grocery shopping for your family, you know exactly, okay, I can buy this, I can buy this, I can buy this. This is what I'm going to buy instead.
And if nothing else,
because you already did your research, you already did your
planning.
And
if nothing else, going back to what Ahmed was saying with, even 10% is a significant amount of impact economically for Israel to feel, for any country to feel. Even if it's not 10%, bro, even if it's just you, that's doing this, and none of your friends are doing it, or no one else is doing it, if it's just you, at least when you stand in front of your creator and he you're taken for account, you've got an extra set of good deeds there compared to everyone else, because you actively did what you could in terms of fighting out against injustice, in terms of what is the hadith, remind me, Muhammad and Tahmid, speak out, use your hand, act out against, speak out against injustice with your hand, right? Fight against it with your hand. If you can't do that, then speak out against it. If you can't do that, then feel it in your heart, right? We all speak out against it, right?
When you see sin,
when you see sin or injustice or whatever. I'm paraphrasing again. And those are the 3 steps, right? And feeling in your heart is the lowest form of iman, if I'm correct. The hadith says, right? We all know that's bad. We all feel that it's bad, right? That what's happening in Palestine, what's happening across the world in terms of oppression. We all speak out against it, or we try to. But in terms of acting out, right? In terms of acting it, none of us really do that. In terms of practical doing stuff. Yeah. So we'll have an extra step ahead of everyone else who might just be speaking out and feeling it, but we're actually acting it as well. So you're just creating an extra kind of bonus set of good deeds for yourself by doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and wallahi, you don't understand like the amount of reward you're gonna get for it, man. We don't. I'm saying I don't. None of us do. You don't understand how much reward you're gonna get for it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, even not even like this. There's so many aspects to this, bro, that you could use it to justify. Yeah, when people try and argue with you, you could use so many different aspects. For example, with the Coke thing, right? If you say I'm boycotting Coke and I'm instead going for a healthy alternative, or maybe a Muslim-backed alternative that is somewhat different, etc., etc. Number one, you're supporting your Muslim businesses, wherever. You could use that argument. Number two, you could say, oh, I'm not drinking Coke anymore because it's healthier for me, right? You don't even have to say to people that it's Israeli-backed or this, that, right? You can do to raise awareness for it, right? But if you know it's going to cause an argument scene, you can just say, oh, it's healthier, and then people might go for that, because nowadays people actually sometimes they value kind of a more non-political agenda, let's say, compared to a political one. Like, you see a lot of people will will say, oh no, we don't know both sides of the story, we don't have all the knowledge, going on, because they don't want to they don't want to say anything that that might get them cancelled, or that might be societally wrong, or that they might be brainwashed into thinking this is wrong, right? But if you tell them everyone should try and be, if you put out a survey and a questionnaire saying more people should try and be vegan, yes or no, do you agree, yes or no, right? More people will say yes than if you put out a survey that said Israel is a terrorist state, or Israel is committing war crimes. More people will say yes, and I agree with the vegan one than with the Israel one, right? Because they don't want to, it's non-political. It doesn't, you don't have to align with anything to be sympathetic with that vegan cause, right? So
and on top of that, one of them, it gives you a direct personal interest.
Exactly.
Directly benefits you. Like when you talk about health, okay, that's something that, because we one of the biggest challenges with boycotting is that it's very difficult to see as an individual. But something like, let's say, oh, I'm not going to drink Coke because of health reasons, that's very easy. You can very easily see the benefit you can get on an individual level,
and you can attract people like
that.
That
being said, that obviously would only work with Israeli products that are unhealthy.
Exactly. That's the limitation.
Israeli products in general. So jazakallah khair for everyone listening to today's episode. It is quite a long episode. We did cover quite a bit of ground in this episode. Spoke about quite a few different things, but we did want to have a more comprehensive episode discussing everything in one go, rather than talking about bits and pieces here and there. I hope this episode was beneficial. I hope at least you found one thing you could do after this episode to help Palestine, to help our Muslim brothers and sisters over there. I guess if there's one last piece of advice I could give to everyone, it would be, today is the day that we should stop fighting amongst ourselves, right? It is the day that we should stop all internal conflict. We're so busy fighting amongst ourselves. I believe that is the reason why most of the ummah is in shambles today. That is the reason why Palestine is in the situation that they're in today, right? And we need to put aside petty, these are all petty things, man. If you look at it, like even in long sight, bro, right, a lot of internal fights, they're not about fake issues. They're not about this, they're not about that, right? They're about, who's in charge of the mosque, right? Who has more political power in this mosque? You get what I mean, right? Tahmid, you've seen it too, innit? Like in our masjids, bro, like you see the people, maybe the imam and etc., the people in the forefront who are doing their best for the community, right? But then there are people behind the scenes who are the quote unquote, I don't know, what do you call it, like the chair people of the committee of the masjids or something. the committees and the people that you would probably never even see in the mosque, right? All they do is just fight amongst themselves about who's in charge of the mosque and this and that and blah blah blah, right? This is what the ummah is busy fighting amongst each other on. Who's in charge of what, you know? And if we can just stop all these petty arguments, right? Petty fights, and we can focus our efforts on what's more important, which is the ummah as a whole, which is saving the ummah as a whole, including our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our Yemenis brothers and sisters, you know, our Uyghur brothers and sisters, right? If we can focus on these type of things, then for sure 110%, you know, we will be able to help them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be on our side, and there's just absolutely no way we can lose. You get me? There's absolutely no way we cannot help our Muslim brothers and sisters.